Well, good evening. We are closing out July here. Can you believe next Sunday is going to be what, the 2nd of August already? Isn't that amazing? So, you guys are completing 2 months for those of you who are still continuing. And tonight, we are talking about the liver, carnivore, and healing your liver. So, make sure to tune in. And I imagine most of you will catch this in the group. I'll also post this video on the Port City Pioneer YouTube channel. But let's go. So, your liver is one of the only organs in your body that can fully regenerate. But the food most Americans are eating every day is stopping that regeneration cold. There is a way back, and it's older than any pharmaceutical on the market. Your liver weighs about 3 pounds. It performs over 500 functions, filtering your blood, producing bile, metabolizing fats, storing glycogen, manufacturing clotting factors, breaking down hormones, detoxifying what you breathe, drink, and absorb through your skin. It's also one of the only visceral organs capable of true regeneration. Cut away 60% of a liver, and within 4 to 6 weeks, it grows back to near original mass size. The cellular mechanism is driven by hepatocyte proliferation, mature living cells re-entering the cell cycle and replicating. That regenerative capacity is the headline. Unfortunately, it's also the tragedy because the same organ that can rebuild itself from 60% loss is being ground down every single day by what the standard American diet puts through it. And most people never feel it until the damage shows up as fatty liver, as elevated liver enzymes, as insulin resistance, as the exhaustion that never lifts, or as the diagnosis that changes everything. The liver does not complain loudly, it complains quietly. And by the time the labs are abnormal, much of the damage has been building for years. Three things are doing the heaviest damage, and all three are load bearing in the standard American food supply. Number one, fructose. Fructose in high fructose corn syrup, table sugar, and fruit is metabolized almost exclusively in the liver. Now, unlike glucose, which can be used by every cell in the body, fructose is shunted straight to the liver for hepatic metabolism. And on the way, it generates uric acid. This is the driving factor for fatty deposits in the liver, new fat production in the liver. And over time, this produces insulin resistance at the level of the liver. The outcome is non alcoholic fatty liver disease. Now, the most common chronic liver condition in the developed world, affecting an estimated, get this, 38% of adults globally. Nearly 4 in 10 adults have fatty liver. Many don't even know it. The second is seed oils. The linoleic acid in soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil, cottonseed oil, sunflower oil, and safflower oil oxidizes during high heat cooking and also during the processing into a compound called 4 hydroxynonenal. You've heard me say this before. It's 4-HNE. 4-HNE is one of the most reactive and toxic aldehydes known to biochemistry. It binds to mitochondrial proteins. It damages mitochondrial DNA and triggers the oxidative stress cascade that drives hepatic inflammation and fibrosis. The seed oils are in every fried food, every processed snack, every restaurant fryer, every institutional kitchen, and unfortunately, every school lunch tray in the country, where we see the greatest rise in non alcoholic fatty liver disease in our youth. The other is alcohol. Now, this isn't new, but the threshold at which alcohol damages the liver is lower than most people think. Daily consumption of 1 to 2 drinks for women or 2 to 3 drinks for men is enough to drive hepatic steatosis in a significant percentage of regular drinkers. And the damage compounds with the fructose and the seed oil exposure. Layer in the ultra processed carbohydrates, the bread, the pasta, the cereal, the snack foods, and you have a hepatic insult that runs from breakfast to bedtime. The liver never gets a break. It never gets the opportunity to regenerate. It just gets to filter. If you want to know where your liver stands, the standard labs are the place to start. Most primary care providers will order three, or excuse me, these as part of a routine metabolic panel. ALT, liver specific, it's an enzyme, elevated when hepatocytes are damaged and leaking enzymes. Normal reference range is typically 7 to 56, but the optimal range for metabolic health is closer to 17 to 25. An ALT in the high 30s or 40s that gets called normal is not normal. That is a flag. AST, aspartate aminotransferase. It's less specific but useful in ratio, especially when you look at AST versus the ALT ratio. Above 1 raises concern for alcoholic liver disease or advanced fibrosis. A ratio below 1 is the typical non alcoholic fatty liver disease pattern. GGT, gamma glutamyl transferase, is a sensitive marker for hepatic inflammation and bile duct injury. It's also elevated with alcohol consumption. It's useful in tracking over time. It's going to be one of the first that gets impacted, especially on a carnivore diet. Fasting insulin. Now, this is not a liver enzyme, but a liver stress proxy. Elevated fasting insulin is one of the earliest signs that the liver is losing metabolic flexibility and beginning the descent towards steatosis. HbA1c, liver glucose output, is a primary driver of fasting glucose. An A1C above 5.5% is metabolic dysfunction territory. Above 5.7 is pre-diabetic, and if you're at 6.5 or greater, that is diabetes. And the liver's been involved long before the diagnosis threshold. You can also do an ultrasound or a fibro scan. This is imaging that quantifies hepatic fat and fibrosis. A fibroscan, in particular, can stage fibrosis without a biopsy. Get the labs, read the numbers, know where you're standing before you decide what to do about it. What does the liver need to regenerate? The mechanism the standard medical conversation does not emphasize enough. The liver regenerates when three things happen simultaneously. You have to remove the insult. The substrate is provided and the inflammatory cascade is cooled. Removing the insult. That means fructose, seed oils, ultra processed carbohydrates, and alcohol have to be kicked out. The liver cannot outfilter a diet designed to keep it inflamed. You cannot supplement your way past a continuous hepatic insult. The first intervention is dietary. And then you need to provide the substrate. The liver is built from amino acids, from cholesterol, from saturated fat, from the B vitamins, from choline, from glycine, and from the bioavailable minerals that come almost exclusively from animal source foods. Choline is required for hepatic fat export. It's concentrated in egg yolks and eating liver itself. Glycine is required for glutathione synthesis and bile salt conjugation. It's abundant in collagen rich animal tissues and in bone broth. B12, the bioavailable heme iron, the zinc, the selenium, the copper, the retinol, all of it is most bioavailable in ruminant animal source foods. The liver is an organ. Organs are built from the nutrients that build organs. In order to cool the inflammation, we have to tackle the insulin resistance. It is upstream driver of hepatic inflammation. Removing the refined carbohydrates and the fructose is the fastest single intervention. Adding choline and glycine supports the methylation and detox pathways. Lowering the linoleic acid load removes the 4-HNE insult. Sleep, sunlight, and movement complete the picture. Cortisol, circadian rhythm, and muscle driven glucose disposal are all hepatic inputs. The carnivore template does not invent this protocol, it implements it. By removing every food the liver has to filter against and supplying only the substrate the liver needs to rebuild, the carnivore framework gives the regenerative capacity the cleanest possible operating environment. The published case series and clinical observations are consistent. In 2021, a case series of 100 consecutive patients on a carnivore diet for at least 6 months, average ALT declined from the high reference range into the optimal range. Average fasting insulin dropped significantly. The A1C dropped. Average triglycerides dropped. And HDL rose. The intervention was an animal based diet: ruminant meat, eggs, animal fats, organ meats, and water. In a parallel body of clinical literature on very low carbohydrate and ketogenic diets for non alcoholic fatty liver disease, the evidence is convergent. Hepatic fat content drops measurably on imaging. Liver enzymes normalize. Insulin sensitivity improves. And the histological markers of steatohepatitis reverse in the majority of adherent patients. The mechanism is not a mystery. Removing fructose removes the primary driver of hepatic fat building. Removing the refined carbohydrates removes the insulin spike that drives hepatic insulin resistance. Removing the seed oils removes the 4-HNE insult to the mitochondria. Increasing choline through egg yolks supports hepatic fat export. Increasing glycine and cysteine through connective tissue and red meat supports glutathione synthesis and phase 2 detox pathways. Increasing your bioavailable B vitamins, zinc, selenium, and retinol gives the liver the substrate for hepatocyte regeneration. This is a substrate level intervention aimed at the organ that needs it most, the liver. It's built to regenerate. Your diet either supports that regeneration or blocks it. The choice is at the dinner table. Here's what happens. Okay. So if you were to start today, early, eating only ruminant meat, eggs, animal fats, organ meats, and water. This is the Lion Kitchen protocol. Salt your food liberally, not with the unrefined iodized stuff, but with sea salt. You can expect the adaptation. The first week, so remember, you've been doing this for 2 months now. This would be back in the first week of June. Includes headaches, fatigue, and irritability as glycogen depletes. That's the detox symptoms that you walk through. And the metabolic machinery switches over. Walk, sleep, drink water, do not snack. After about the first month, that adaptation begins to settle. Your energy begins to stabilize. Hunger normalizes. Mental clarity sharpens. Sleep deepens. If you have access to baseline labs, repeat the metabolic panel now after 30 days. Most people see movement in ALT, fasting insulin, and triglycerides by the end of the first month. Month 2, which is where we're at now, I'd run labs again. Compare it to your baseline data. The pattern is usually visible by now. If you're reversing a decades-long metabolic insult, give the liver time. Hepatocyte turnover in a healthy liver takes weeks to months. The numbers you see at 60 and 90 days are more meaningful than the numbers at 14. After 90 days, I would run everything all over again. The ALT, the AST, the GGT, the fasting insulin, the HbA1c, the high sensitivity C-reactive protein. And if you can get it, another fibroscan. The trend line is the answer. The hardest part is not the diet. The hardest part is removing the foods you've been told are healthy. The whole grains, the fruit, especially juices, the seed oil salad dressings, the heart healthy oils. They are not. The hepatic literature is unambiguous. They are the primary drivers of the damage you're trying to reverse. So, some common objections here. Doesn't red meat cause liver disease? The answer is no. The data linking red meat to liver damage is observational, confounded by what the red meat is cooked in, seed oils, and what it is eaten with, the other refined carbohydrates, and contradicted by the interventional data on animal based diets showing liver enzyme improvement. The carnivore framework removes every confounding variable. No seed oils, no refined carbs, no ultra processed anything. So, what about cholesterol? Your liver makes cholesterol. Your body needs cholesterol. Your body makes both HDL and LDL cholesterol. Dietary cholesterol intake from eggs and red meat has minimal impact on serum cholesterol in the majority of people. And in the minority who are hyper responders, the LDL particle size shifts towards the large, which is the Boolean pattern A phenotype. That's the good stuff. That's not associated with atherosclerotic risk. The lipid story is a separate conversation, but the liver story is clear. The liver enzyme pattern improves on this template. Is this sustainable? That's the real question. The literature says adherence to a well formulated animal based diet at 6 months exceeds 70% in published cohorts. For comparison, adherence to the standard low fat diet recommendations for chronic disease management is closer to 30% at 12 months. Hunger drives adherence. The carnivore template is the most satiating eating pattern most people have ever experienced. The food is satisfying. The inflammation quiets. The hunger normalizes. Most people who get past the first 3 weeks do not want to go back. So, your liver can regenerate. Now, this isn't motivational language, it's actual cell biology. Hepatocytes re enter the cell cycle. The organ grows back. The architecture restores. The function returns. The only requirement is that the insult stops and the substrate is provided. The carnivore template is the cleanest implementation of that principle in clinical practice. Ruminant meat, eggs, animal fats, organ meats, water, and salt. No fructose, no seed oils, no refined carbohydrates, no alcohol. The food that built the liver becomes the food that rebuilds it. If your labs are off, if ALT is creeping up, if fasting insulin is climbing, if the ultrasound is showing fat building on the liver, you do not need a new prescription. You need a new menu. Get the baseline, change the food, retest at 30, 60, and 90 days. Let the trend line tell the story. That is your testimony. The liver is waiting. The substrate is at the grocery store. The only thing left is the decision. Thanks for joining me. I hope this information provided a little clarity, especially if you're dealing with a sick liver, fatty liver, cirrhosis. This can help you. I'm Dr. Bradley Walter. This is the Health Freedom Doctor podcast. Good night.